Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so you are buying the Smart Tile add-on on U-MMO.com. The add-on is essentially this. This is what you're buying. The ability to place tiles down and them automatically figure out exactly what the edge pieces are. Some caveats to this add-on is, one, there must be always 2 tiles in width. If the add-on isn't placing your tiles right, most likely you've only got 1 tile in width. So you need to always make sure you have at least 2 tiles in width. Pretty simple once you've actually got it set up. I can then go ahead and grab this one and also create more tiles, which is pretty cool. So very quickly, I'm going to go to the installation steps. You need to have U-MMO RPG 2D. I believe the version that tile sets were introduced was 1.11, although technically you can use it even before that, as long as Unity, your Unity supports 2D tiles and tile palettes and all this other stuff. Not quite sure what the latest version is for that. In order to use tiles and tile palette, you need to add a grid and tile map, which really all you have to do is come over here, hit create 2D object, and then hit tile map, and it will automatically create the grid within the tile map. And if you are clicked inside of the grid and hit tile map, it'll just create the tile map by itself. For the installation of this, you obviously just go to import package, custom package, and you import your smart tile Unity package. That will import this folder in the parent assets called tile add-on. You'll find 3 folders in here: the script, some sample tiles, and some sample palettes for you to be able to test it and play around with it and see how it's set up. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of show you how to set up a new tile and a new set of palettes. So from here, here's the sample palette, the sample smart palette. It will come with all of these. It'll come with these 2 circles. I like to just design this just for fun, but in reality, all of these tiles are all the same exact tile. All they're doing is just switching out the sprite so that it places the right sprite in the right location, but they're essentially all the same tile, which is why I set up these down here, which are essentially just to show you that these are the exact same thing, right? I'm able to set up all the same smart tiles. You'll notice that in my sample tiles, which I used to build a smart palette, there are 2 tiles. There's the one that is grass with path, which is this one on the right side, which is the same as the path down here that this 2K has set up. And then there's the grass with water, which is the one that sets up the edges with the water and everything like that. You can use this with, which is actually what I recommend. I don't particularly think that tiles should be used with double-edged palettes, if you will. So I don't like this grass against water or this grass against path, because in reality you could just make 1 tile for grass with a transparent background, and then you could put grass above water, you could put grass above palette, you could put grass above anything, and it blend in properly. So that will save you a lot of time. I'll show you that near the end, later in the video. So for the installation, once you have it installed, if you want to create a new tile, I'm going to walk you through that. So we can right click anywhere in the assets folder down here to create a smart tile. If you just hit create, go to smart tile. For those of you that don't know, you can also come up here to assets, hit create. Down here on the right side, hit create. Anywhere where the create button is available, you can scroll all the way down and hit smart tile. So I'm going to create it down here inside my sample tiles. So you need to create a tile, smart tile. From there, it's going to ask you what folder to put it in, which is really in the folder that has the sample tiles. In my case, is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to recreate the grass water. I'll recreate this one again, so I'm going to overwrite it, hit save, and it's going to replace it, which means it's going to wipe out this tile altogether, which is why it's now gone blank, which is okay. I'm going to go ahead and recreate it in a second. So from here, there we go. So this is what it will look like as a blank tile. We'll go over some of these collider types in a second. So first and foremost, this add-on will randomize center tiles. So I personally think that when you have tiles that are repeated in the middle, it looks very noobish, to say the least. And I think some level of randomization in the middle is useful to kind of give it a more realistic look. So you can actually hit 3, and what it will do, hit enter, it will randomize. If you select 3 tiles that can go in the middle, and they're all slightly different but pretty much the same, it'll randomize them and it'll make your tile map look pretty darn good. In the case of what this 2K gives us available, there's only one center grass tile, which is fine. This is for demo purposes anyway. So I'm going to change it back to 1. I'll go back down to 1, and I can then come down here and select. You can go through your sprites. Remember, you do have to split your sprites. For those of you that don't know how to do that, just really fast, come down to sprites. You can then come down to some of the tile maps. So this is the sprite sheet that has all of the tiles. You need to then set it to Sprite 2D UI, set it to multiple, and then hit the sprite editor, and then you can hit slice, and then you can go slice by grid by cell size, so that way it'll slice the grid specifically by cell size. You can hit 32 by 32 for most sprite sheets. Check with your sprite creator to make sure that that's correct. In Vis2K's instance, his sprite sheet is split up pretty accurately already for most of the sprites that are important, so you can come in and do that. Keep in mind that the auto tile is meant mainly for ground or dirt or whatever, for the things that are walkable. I haven't tested it for walls or any type of other object, so just keep that in mind. This is meant for you to be able to create massive continents very, very quickly. So anyway, going back to our tile, so I'm going to go back to my sample tile, my grass against water. I've selected my grass tile for my center tile because in this case there's only one tile. From there, I'm going to set up all of my edges. You need to tell the smart tile how to set up all of the edges for it to know where to put everything, which is pretty self-explanatory. For all intensive purposes, when you look at this setup here, the other reason I like to draw it this way is so you kind of understand how this is meant to be set up. Basically, this would be like the top tile, bottom tile, left tile, right tile. The outer corner is essentially what's going to have. So in this case, this is primarily path, right? The way it would also look if I were to draw it here like this, you'll notice that the primary tile is the path tile. So I can make this even bigger, and you'll notice path tile is always what it's going to prioritize. The grass just happens to be the edge. This is a lot easier to see when you have transparent edges, but essentially this is a tile like this. So the idea is that this is an outer tile where you have the least amount of path because that's your center tile, or in the case of what's in the middle here, you'll notice that this is what I call the inner tile. So whatever goes in the middle here are your inner corners, and whatever goes on the outside are your outer corners. Okay, so just to make that very easy to identify when you're putting that together. So I've got my top tile. So in this case, I'm doing grass against water. Grass is my primary tile. So I'm going to look for grass being closest to the center and water being there. So there we go. So this is our top tile, the one that's going to go above our center tile. Our bottom tile, come down here, look for my grass that goes on the bottom, my right tile, grass, boom. And by the way, this is literally the most tedious part, is just trying to find all the tiles for the edges and making sure that they go in. But once you've done it once, you do not need to touch it again. And again, if you use transparent backgrounds for your edges, you have to do this a hell of a lot less, which is very convenient. So now I'm going to have my top right in. So I'm going to look for the top right tile that has the least amount of grass. So this would be a top right tile because this is what's going to go in the top right. My center tile would be down here, but because it's got a lot of grass instead of less grass, it's got to be my outer version. So here's my inner version where there's the least amount of grass, okay? And then I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to do my top right out tile, which is the one I was just talking about a second ago. So top out, very good. Top left tile in, so same thing, grass, and I'm looking for ends. Once you've done one, it's pretty easy to tell. So I could do my top left in grass tile, and then I do my top left out grass tile. So here's my outer version of it. Here's now my bottom right in. And again, if you mess it up, it's okay. Just draw with it, and if you start noticing it's weird, you can always come back and fix it, and anything you've drawn will automatically get updated. So bottom right in tile here, bottom right out tile. Okay, bottom right out, very good. And then bottom left tile in, this one, and then bottom left out, which is going to be this one. Very good. All right, and again, if you've got it messed up, it's no big deal. Now, all we have to do now that we've set up this new tile, it's going to be down here inside of our assets folder. One of the things that, this is the last bit of the configuration that you need to figure out is, do you want your edges to be walkable or not? Basically what this does is, for the collider, for the tile, for the nav mesh 2, for those of you that use the nav mesh 2D, which anyone who's using 2D U-MMO is, it needs to have a collider type of sprite if you want it to not be walkable. In this case, we don't want the water to be walkable, so we're going to hit sprite for the edges. If for whatever reason you happen to have some type of ground tile that you don't want to be walkable, I don't know why you would, but I made it available here. You can come in and change that to sprite also. And again, whatever you set up, you're not stuck with it. You can set it up, try it. If you don't like it, you can come back and change it. And so at that point, your tile is pretty much ready to go. So now I'm going to grab my grass water smart tile. I'm going to drag it back over here. You'll notice it just sets up a grass. Now I'm going to, by the way, to edit your tile palette, for those of you that don't know, if you hit edit, that actually allows you to put tiles down here on the right side. If you unclick it, it will actually select it so you can draw it on the main map. But in this case, I'm going to edit it so that I can redraw this. It will behave the same way as it is going to behave in your map. So that's how I drew these little things right here. And you notice it just draws perfectly right there. I can go ahead and draw this tile back over here. I'm going to take off the edit so that I can go ahead and write it on the map. And now I can go ahead and draw again like I was earlier. And I can now replace down all those tiles. And that's pretty much it for the installation. Now, quick caveat for everything is these smart tiles only know how to interact with themselves. They do not know how to interact with other smart tiles, and they do not know how to interact with your older tiles that you may or may not have already placed. So in this case, with Vis2K's map, he has already placed some tiles in the terrain tile. You can go ahead and use the focus, hit tile map, and then I can switch over here to terrain, and you'll notice it'll show me just the terrain that's on that tile map, and it's got all of Vis2K's default tiles. My tile does not know how to interact with this, so it will do all sorts of weird things. You'll notice it puts the edge in and everything like that. It essentially removes the tile. In the tile maps, only one tile can exist in a particular location per tile map. So how you combat this, if you wanted to, so first off, I'm going to show you guys how quick it is to actually replace everything that Vis2K has done. It literally takes like literally 2 button clicks, and boom, I've now replaced his tile map with my actual smart tile. But yes, now if I go ahead and I switch over to the path tile, the same thing is going to happen that was going on earlier. That it's not going to know how to behave because it doesn't know how to interact with other smart tiles, which is perfectly fine. Because the way you combat that, and the way you can also combat having to override everything that was done before, is you can set everything on tile map that's a little bit higher than your than the tiles where you've already built tiles. So I've already gone ahead and built the tile map terrain +2 and the tile map terrain +3. If I wanted to, I can actually undo everything that I've done, and I can bring back Vis2K's tile map, and these are all his normal tiles. I can go ahead and come over here to the tile palette and switch over to terrain +2. I'll be slightly above his map. And again, if you had an invisible tile with a transparent background, I mean, not invisible, but transparent background, you'd be able to just essentially draw right above his tiles, and it wouldn't have any effect on that tile map. So now I can sit here, say focus none. Now you will notice this tile is actually showing up behind his tile map. That should not be happening, but that's okay. They're both the terrain sorting there, but I can go ahead and set a sorting order that's a little bit higher, and I'm just going to set 1. So now my tile actually shows up above it. Now because it's got the water edge, it looks a little funny, but that's perfectly fine. Again, I can go ahead and show you how quick it is to override his tile map actually, and to actually rebuild what he built here. It takes literally 2 seconds. I'm going to go to the terrain, use my smart tile, go ahead and, I need to use the square tool here and replace that. And then I can go ahead and for the path that's going to go above it, since it already has the proper edge, I can just go to terrain +1 and pick that path, and now I can go ahead and rebuild. And I'm actually going to use this tool here to do this, do that, and boom. It may look a little funny right now because I'm focused on that one, but as soon as I remove the focus, you'll notice everything looks exactly like his map before. But the best part now is I can go back to terrain 1 and expand this map entirely, which again I can go ahead and boom. I can go ahead and use the brush to kind of create some more natural looking edges and everything, and just fill in the centers. Make sure there's no one-tilers on the edges, and then you'll be set. Very easy, very simple. All of this over here, the pink stuff, is from a different layer. So I'm going to go up to terrain +2, there we go. And then I'm just going to erase all of this to kind of make it look better. Alright, so that's pretty much it, and that covers the installation and what you're essentially buying. These things over here are all stuff that are in the terrain +1 that you can actually just erase because they're no longer applicable because there's no longer water there. And that's pretty much it. The last thing I suppose is you need to obviously run your nav mesh. So you come to navbit 2D, which this actually took me a while to figure out the first time, but if you'll notice it still has the nav mesh from the old map. All you have to do is hit bake, and boom, it will go ahead and rewrite the nav mesh around these edges, and now your character cannot walk on the edges. For this path tile, the grass path smart tile, if you go back to the inspector, you will notice that this one I left the edges sprite to none, and that's why it's walkable. If I switch it to sprite and then I hit bake again, you'll notice that the edges are now not walkable. So obviously in this case we do want them walkable, which I'm going to leave it to none, hit bake again, and boom. Alright, okay, from here I'm going to just talk about a few tips for the people that are using RPG Maker sprites. I understand there was so if you're not using those sprites, then you can go ahead and leave. But for those of you that are using RPG Maker sprites, apparently before Unity to make RPGs and MMOs, 2D MMOs, a popular engine was RPG Maker. So I've got a friend who uses that, and obviously his sprites don't translate over quite as neatly as this. So what I have asked him to do is essentially just to draw this path, a 2x2 with a center missing, and also I asked him to draw what was actually a 2x2 square like this, and actually no, I think that was a 3x3 square like this. And by doing that, you can then take that. I asked him to take this, export it as an image, and then once you export it as an image, you can bring it into your sprite sheets, and then you can slice it up as a 16x16 or a 32x32, whatever size your sprites are, and then you should be able to import everything exactly like this. Again, setup maybe a little manual, and I haven't. My goal is to eventually automate that so that you can just upload your sprite sheet and it will automatically piece it together and figure out what your edges are and all that other stuff. Unfortunately, given the time constraint, this is what I could come up with such a short amount of time. And I will let you guys know if I ever update that to do something else. All right. Any feedback you might have for this tile, this smart tile add-on, please leave in the comments. If you have any bugs or issues, please contact us. We have our live chat on u-mmo.com. And you can also contact us through the contact form. It will send that to us in an email format. If you need us to jump on with you at any moment, we're happy to do so. You can use the quick support tool in the contact us page, and it will notify us that you're in need of help. If we're available, we'll jump right on and help you out. If not, we'll schedule a time for you in the future. Thank you.